Alright, next dungeon. So this is going to be Shadowfang Keep as a Mistweaver monk. So like Dead Mines, Shadowfang Keep was redone for Cataclysm. Both of those dungeons were upgraded so that they could have a heroic version at the level cap. But I'm not at the level cap. I'm level 22 right now. Let's see, looks like I have a couple of new tools. My action bar, in contrast to how it was for Ragefire Chasm, is now dedicated entirely to healing, and the main part of it. And I have 2 new healing tools, it looks like. So hang on, what's my number 3? This is not set up the way I'm used to now. Okay, I see how it is. So number 1, Soothing Mist, that's familiar. Number 2 is Enveloping Mist. Number 4 is now Vivify. So those are the 3 spells I had before. Number 3 is Renewing Mist, so that's an instant cast heal over time. That's pretty weak, but it makes my other healing spells stronger. So when I cast the number 3 spell, can you tell what I'm doing? It's a little hard to... I mean, you can see the Soothing Mist down at the bottom there. I guess the icon lights up when I press the key, but it's probably not super clear to see which spell I'm casting. I guess you kind of have to know where to look to tell. Anyway, so I want to keep Renewing Mist up usually because it makes my other healing spells stronger, but for this early stuff it doesn't matter much. Then my number 5 ability there is Detox. That removes harmful debuffs. I believe it's Poison, Disease, and Magic. Each healing class gets their own set of debuffs they can remove, so I can't remove Curses as a monk. Not sure if there are any others I'm forgetting. Curse, Magic, Poison, Disease, those might be the only 4. There might be a 5th. I don't know. So this was actually the 4th dungeon I did with this character. The 3rd one was another run on Dead Mines. I'm opting not to show that one because it was mostly the same, you know, just... What are these, like, spikes of earth coming out of the air? Is there a shaman in the party? Is that a shaman thing? I think that other Pandaren is a shaman there. Maybe. Anyway, yeah, so not too much going on yet. Looks like I haven't started using my attacks yet. I think this is the dungeon where I changed that. If you look at the mini-map in the upper right, it's a little hard to see, but it looks like I did turn on the highlight for my my targets. Tank right now, is that a warrior? I think that's a warrior. Can't always instantly tell. I don't see any consecrated ground, so that's not a paladin. That was a charge, right? Yeah, that's a warrior. Okay. It's coming up on the first boss here. Right, first boss does something weird. I had forgotten about this. So strange things are about to go on. They look kind of alarming if you don't know what's going on with them. Yeah, you're a warrior. Nightborn, right. So you can kind of sort of play Night Elf on the Horde side now, apparently. They're just a funny color. It's like Zandalari Troll, where you gotta get a certain reputation to somewhere. Okay, yeah, so everybody's health bar going down to what looks like 0. Looks really scary. I kind of sort of remember this from having run the dungeon before. This boss kind of just wants to toy with you. So he brings you down to basically 0, then brings you back up to half health. Then you have to heal through that half health, because the damage is real after that. It's kind of a fake out, so not something you need to worry about too much. But it gave me something to do. I see not full bars, so I have an activity to mess with. Channeling some kind of shadow damage on me, but it didn't last too long, so that was fine. Here's this again. Don't worry about it. It won't kill you, even though it looks like it will. Back up to half, and real healing. So sometimes the boss gets that thing over on the right, just below the minimap, that shows me its current health and stuff. Sometimes that seems to not happen. I'm not sure what decides whether it happens or not. But this one did get it, so I can always see his health even if I'm not targeting him. I can also see him in target of targets when I have the tank targeted. Up in sort of the upper left. So a couple of places I can watch the boss health bar. It's often good to keep an eye on that as a healer, but it's not the most important thing to be watching. Again, no time to read quests, I have no idea what they say. Just pick them up, do whatever they are. Oh, right, and this is one of those dungeons where you think you gotta talk to the NPCs to get them to unlock doors for you. Somebody's probably done it. Everybody in these dungeons always assumes someone has done it. Sometimes all 5 of us have not and are just assuming somebody else has, and we sit there for a while. You'll see in one quite a bit later that I have to do the talking because nobody else either knows it needs to be done or remembers it needs to be done, or I don't know. Yeah, there was a Renewing Mist cast. I guess you can tell because that one actually has a long cooldown on it. Renewing Mist is a weird spell, so at this point it only has 1 charge. I can cast it once, then I have to wait for the kinda long cooldown before I can cast it again. It doesn't last very long. Its main feature seems to be that each target it's cast on receives some healing from every Vivify cast that I do. So if I want to heal 3 people at once, I sort of have a wind-up time on it, where I cast Renewing Mist on target 1, Renewing Mist on target 2, then Vivify on target 3. So target 3 receives a full heal, targets 1 and 2 receive like 2/3 of that value each. And it also does a thing where, yeah, it regenerates health a little bit while it's on the target. It lasts like, I don't know, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that. Not super long, maybe even less than that. Does a very small heal over time, not really even worth much of anything, but it's worth a little bit. I can cast it while moving. And the other thing it does is it jumps to a nearby target who needs healing if the one that it's on is full. It's a very complicated spell. One of the more complicated things to manage. So if I have it on the primary target that I'm casting Vivify on, then it gives the main amount of healing plus the extra bonus. So it makes the Vivify like 5/3 as strong, basically. So if I have the time to get it up and, if I have the time to prepare before I'm casting that particular healing spell, which is not my primary healing spell, like most of the time I just want a Soothing Mist and Enveloping Mist. That's a little cheaper on mana, I think. But yeah, if I'm casting Vivify, killing some horses here for some reason. I'm not sure why. They're neutral, you don't have to go attack these, but this warrior decided to anyway. Standing near them seemed to cause sun effects, so I was knocked down and couldn't do anything for a bit. Yeah, they're doing quite a bit of damage, so yeah, I guess I noticed that I was getting stunned and taking damage from being close there, so I backed off. Everybody else kind of didn't, so I just had to heal them through it. Still hard casting of Enveloping Mist. I'll learn not to do that eventually. Alright, horses are dead. Felsteed's Saddlebags. Maybe you had a quest that came from, like, outside the dungeon. Those happen sometimes. Not all the dungeon quests are picked up at the beginning of the dungeon. That seems to be a relatively new thing. Like, I don't remember that having been the case when I was playing this game before in Cataclysm. So some expansion since that seems to have added quest NPCs at the start of almost every dungeon. I don't think every single one has it, but most of them seem to. These dungeons have maps. They are of varying usefulness. Another not as new feature, that was added in Cataclysm, I think? Let's see, Wrath of the Lich King definitely had dungeon maps for Wrath dungeons. But I think the classic dungeon maps were only added in Cataclysm. Anyway, yeah, so you can look at the map. Again, they're not the most useful thing, but they are kind of useful. So I check it occasionally just to see where we're going. This is not a straightforward instance. This one spirals around itself all over the place. Fundamentally, it's not super non-linear, but it's, we're kind of on a side path here. There was that spiral staircase outside we didn't take. There's another route where you can take it. This is another dungeon I ran a second time, and the second time we took the other route. We went straight up that staircase outside and came around to this upcoming boss from the back. We're coming in the front for it now. And yeah, most of the time people just leave that decision up to the tank. They decide how to route through the dungeon. Not always, but most of the time. And that's why it's important to know where you're going when you're playing that role. So yeah, some sort of dining hall here. Boss is there in the back. Always good to take out everybody else in the room. Some bosses use fear effects. Sometimes engaging them just pulls all of their followers to you. So usually, unless you know you can definitely get away with it, usually don't want to engage a boss without clearing the room they're in first. So my portrait up there in the upper left is ringed in red right now. That means someone is targeting me. That shadowy attendant right there, kind of center upper right, is targeting me. And the warrior's not doing anything about it. There's only so much they can do, because, you know, everybody else is grouped up in one place. Actually, I might be being targeted by all three of those. Yeah, look at those shadow bolts flying straight to me. Casters are annoying like that, because, like, to generate threats... not sure I've explained threat yet, so for those who don't know, enemies have a value that determines which target they think is most threatening at the time, and that's the one that they will attack. So any attacks on them will generate threat, and healing people who are in combat will also generate threat. So if left to their own devices, the healer will always receive the most threat from something that's not being attacked by the other members. Most of the time you want the tank to be to have the most threat on everything. That's their main job. They deal some damage, but mostly they want to generate threat and keep anything from targeting, hey look, I did an attack. Crackling Jade Lightning is the one ranged attack that the monk gets. So it's channeled damage over time. Does decent damage, really. Yeah, so finally I decide. I have some downtime. Ranged damage is not the monk's strong suit. I'll get comfortable with melee eventually. The whole room's kind of dark. What was that? Oh, that was a debuff on me, impairing my vision. I think those screen effects had just been added as of Cataclysm, so like the drunk effect that I was getting in Dead Mines, you know, they wanted to throw show that off. So, Baron Silverlane uses one, the Mine Bunnies or whatever they are used one. Anyway. What is this? Is that a rogue? No, that's not a rogue. It has mana. What's that troll on the bottom? Not even going to attempt to pronounce that name. I can't roll over its name now on video to see the class, but whatever it was taking a bunch of damage. I think it's a... Yeah, okay, so that water elemental is the troll's minion. That means that troll is a frost mage, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was seeing frost novas and stuff. Yep, okay, so frost mage did something that was causing him a bunch of damage. Anyway, yeah, so we're taking the back exit out of that kitchen. You can come down this stairway that I'm standing on right now to get around that boss from the back. Do it either way. It works both ways. Ugh. 3 enveloping mists in a row, no soothing mist on them. I mean, it doesn't technically matter, but it bothers me because it's just less efficient. Because since Soothing Mist makes it instant, the global cooldown you get for using any ability you have to wait for that anyway to cast Enveloping Mist after you start channeling Soothing Mist. But the time that takes is at least as short as the cast time for hardcasting Enveloping Mist. And during that time, the Soothing Mist will be doing a little bit of extra healing on the target you want. Wailing Guardsman on me. Pay attention. He got it. So whenever I have threat like that, I think it's usually a good habit to stand like right on top of the tank pretty much so that they can use some kind of area of effectability like that one that he just used there. Is that called War Stomp or is that the Tauren racial? I get those mixed up. My first warrior was a Tauren. Hey, I leveled up. So sometimes I forget which abilities are warrior abilities and which abilities are Tauren abilities. Thunderclap? That's the warrior one. Yeah, War Stomp is the Tauren one. Whatever it's called. Warriors can do a bunch of other stuff. I really enjoy Protection Warrior. That was one of my favorite things to play back when I played Cataclysm. So I'm looking forward to leveling one of those at some point. They can charge, they can throw their weapon, they can just taunt. Lots of tools for dealing with that, but you know, you have to notice that it's happening, and often there's a lot of other stuff going on. Isn't there a boss in this room? Yes, we're fighting it now. Okay. It barely registers as a boss. I guess that was a little bit of a long fight for just trash, but he didn't say anything. Did he? Maybe he did. I was thinking about other stuff. Alright, people are talking. I think this is another case where, what am I doing? I got an upgrade, so I'm applying an armor kit to it because I'm a leather worker. I can apply small protection buffs to new armor that I get. Doesn't really make much of a difference, but you know, it's a thing I can do, so I decided to do it. I don't really remember very well what this instance looked like before it was redone for Cataclysm. I didn't run it very often. I know I did it at least a couple of times, but somehow it just was not memorable for me back then. Now it's fantastic. Like, this is one of my favorite ones, actually. A lot of cool stuff going on here. But yeah, just the old one somehow was not memorable to me. I think I said something in Dead Minds about how you can tell a new dungeon from an old one by the presence of voice acting. I'm immediately being proven wrong here because nobody's actually talking. None of the NPCs. I see those things glowing green, and suspect that might mean that standing near them, either when they die or just while they're alive, might do bad things to me, so I don't want to get too close. Well, except I'm just standing there as they run through me. But I do have... there's a caster way over there, that's why I have threats. I see. I see those frostbolts coming my way. Yeah, not the most attentive tank I've had, but it didn't matter. Was perfectly fine for the situation. So they're using ice magic, and we also have a friendly frost mage here. Gargoyles, right, those come to life. There's a fear effect. Watch out for those. There's not a lot of places you can be sent to where you'd get into trouble right here. This is a pretty enclosed little walkway. But still, it's annoying. I think I can dispel that now that I have Detox, because it's a magic effect. But I can only use Detox once every so often. It has a medium length cooldown on it. Yeah, there are those Earth Shards again. That must be an Elemental Shaman again, shaman thing. So Elemental Shaman is the ranged one. Enhancement is in melee, and Restoration does healing. I haven't played a shaman very much. It's one of the classes I know the least. From the bit that I did play, I didn't super enjoy the playstyle, but it was, you know, it's fine. It's just that there are other classes I would rather play. Monk's been great. I've been real impressed with it. Haven't really tried the other two specs much at all. But yeah, Mistweaver is quite enjoyable for me.
I need to get closer.
Voice clip's still on. Turn those off. I do eventually, but I'm not sure when. Like, again, just like all the other voice clips in this game, they're fine once or twice, but hear them 20 times and they get really tiresome. And like the big red text popping up in the center of the screen is enough of a notification. I don't need to actually hear it in my ears too. There's a treasure chest in this room. Those treasure chests usually don't have anything good in them, but I saw that it was there, so I opened it. Just like super basic crafting materials, low-level stuff, nothing I've ever cared about has been in a treasure chest. But they exist, you know. Every little bit helps. Every time I come out of one of these dungeons, you know, sell everything you got here that you don't specifically need for equipping or some other stuff, which is most everything you pick up. And it's pretty profitable. You get a lot of money out of these runs. And you need money for a lot of things. Interestingly, so last time I played this game, I remember there being a huge in-game spam problem. Like, gold sellers were all over the place, all over like every chat channel. For one thing, I don't keep the chat channels open right now, but you know, I'd get whispers and things. It was just everywhere. There's an in-game spam filter now, which I do have on. I don't know how effective it is. I wonder if maybe the parent company just sort of took the wind out of their sails by selling gold themselves, because I think you can actually just buy it from the company who runs the game now, instead of having to get it from a third party. So, you know, there are a lot of reasons not to like that as a business practice, but if it put a stop to the spam, then that's an upside of that. But yeah, since you need gold for so many things, gold farmers, gold sellers had always been a thing as long as I knew the game, and you know, it had always been against the terms of service, but people still did it. But I haven't seen any of that this time around. I think we're getting close to the end. I want to say this is second to last boss. There might be another one in between though. What's that debuff on the warrior? Do I look at that at any point? You gotta roll over it to read it. But there's an icon there. It means something. I guess I didn't roll over it at any time that I was paying attention. Godfrey lies just ahead. Yeah, I think he's the last one. Yep. Mana was a bit low, so I sat down to drink, while dialogue and stuff happens. Gotta be out of combat to do this. In later dungeons, when mana requirements are a little more stringent, it's often a good idea to start drinking the instant that combat ends, because often, you know, the impatient other 4 party members are going to be moving on immediately, so take whatever mana break you can get. If it gets real bad, you know, maybe I would ask them to slow down, but, you know, usually I can just get little bits here and there and have enough. That mage is just kind of standing there doing nothing. So was I, to be fair. Ooh yeah, pulled a lot of threat there, taking heavy damage. Am I paying attention to that? Not in line of sight. What are you doing back there? Ooh yeah, that's not what you want to do. So this troll mage over here pulled threat and is running away from the person who should be taking it away from him. There you go. You brought him to the right place. Figured it out eventually. This is why, for one thing, you usually want to... What I do when I'm a damage dealer is I'll have the tank targeted at the beginning of every combat. For the most part. Wait for like 1 or 2 hits.
You must know magic too, because you just made everyone else in the room disappear.
Great. Anyway, so usually wait for them to get 1 or 2 hits in, then press the target of target button. What's it called? Assist. Press the assist button so that whatever their main target is, the one they're generating the most threat on, is the one that I attack first. In some situations, you know, you just want to... If you're fighting a huge number of super weak enemies, you can sometimes just, like, do a big AoE attack and burn them down, but if it's single targets, I want to choose the target which is their main target. Ideally, they'll stick with one target until it's dead. Not everybody does this. And there are a lot of good reasons not to sometimes. The situation calls for it, but ideally everybody in the party should be focusing on one single target in combat, so that all the tank's attacks will generate the most threats. Tanks always come with abilities that generate more threat than they normally would per damage that they deal, because a tank is not going to be at the top of the damage meter usually. That's the damage dealer's job. Alright, Lord Godfrey, last boss, has an ability that you gotta watch out for, Pistol Barrage. There it is. So yeah, anybody who's standing in front of that is going to take real heavy damage. Looks like he picks a direction to face and stays facing that direction for the entire time. So if he's facing you when he starts to cast Pistol Barrage, move. That's about all you need to know about him, at least on non-heroic. I'm not sure if there's another mechanic to this fight on heroic. But yeah, Pistol Barrage is the main ability to watch out for. That was one I actually remembered. Well, I can click it and see the description. That's neat. Yeah, I was in it, and I moved. This Frost Mage, always taking so much damage, did not move out of it. At least not very fast. Yeah, it was fine though. This was not stressing my healing abilities. Mana bar is basically full. I'm not doing much. Everything's good. Oh cool, I can see his cast bar way over on the right. I mean, that's very small and kind of out of the way to look at, but knowing where to look for it, that is good to know. Alright, and that's done. Turn in quests, back across the way where we came in. This jump's actually kind of tricky here. I think I make it. I did.
Hooray!
I felt the need to cheer, apparently. Pick a reward. Neither one's particularly great. Oh wait, but I didn't even have shoulder pads, so that was actually real good. Alright, and that's Shadowfang Keep. Leave dungeon, and that's it. See you for the next one.